What up, guys? Kevin here. Final Fantasy 16. I do got to apologize. I'm making a lot of videos on it. I hate when I watch creators and they just keep making videos about a subject that I don't give an F about to the point where I just unsubscribe. So I appreciate you guys for sticking around. I'm going to be annoying about Final Fantasy 16 probably for the next week or so. And then after that, probably Trails into Reverie and then so on. Final Fantasy 16, I see the controversy about it not being turn-based combat. And I just want to give my thoughts on that. Just because I don't think I'm given my thoughts, but I haven't given my dedicated video to it thoughts. So let's do that. So Final Fantasy 16 not being turn-based is absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine in my mind. But at the same time, I do want them to go back. But also at the same time as that, there are turn-based Final Fantasy games coming out all the time. They're just not called Final Fantasy. I see people complain, oh, I want my turn-based Final Fantasy game. Does it have to be called Final Fantasy? Because Bravely Default 2 just came out, a year or so ago? It's on Steam now. That's a Final Fantasy game. What, are you going after the crystals? I think you're even called the Warrior of Light. So what's stopping you from playing that and enjoying a fresh new Final Fantasy game? Or how about one that just came out recently called Octopath Traveler 2? Or Octopath Traveler 1? Or you can go play the I Am Setsuna games and Lost Sphere. Stuff like that. I mean, help yourself. Help yourself. Help yourself. They're just mad because I think they're really starting to pop off because Final Fantasy 16, the demo was great and people are really enjoying it. I think after 15, they're like, damn, it's not turn-based, but the game sucked. Nobody was happy. They'll go back to turn-based. And 16, I mean, if you look at the gameplay real quick between 15 and 16, look very similar. 16 is way better. But that's just pissing them off more. Like, I want my turn-based Final Fantasy. I need it now. And they don't want to play those games I just mentioned. But I do think Final Fantasy 17, if I could bet on it, I probably would. Final Fantasy 17 is going to be turn-based. And I think I have some numbers here of some other games to back it up. But here's what's going to happen. I think Final Fantasy 16, it seems like the only people that are really into it are people that are like me, who are going to buy it anyways. I'm very curious to see how well it does. I think it's going to do well overall. I think it'll land in the between 5 to 10 million copies sold after a few years. Now, 5 to 10 million sold. Square Enix has to look at that number and be like, we could have attained that number doing turn-based, and we get a lot of crybabies wanting turn-based. Why not do it for Final Fantasy 17? And that 5 to 10 million mark is being achieved by two other franchises that are up there with Final Fantasy. I still put Final Fantasy. It's number one, numero uno. You ask people to name a JRPG, most likely they're going to name Final Fantasy besides these other two. Just a long history. We're at the 16th one. But you look at a game like Persona 5. Persona 5 is the one where it got popular. And it sold 7.2 million. A turn-based game selling 7.2 million, where people first became introduced with Persona, mostly with this game. Mostly with Persona 5. Not Persona 4. Well, some Persona 4 like me. Less so with Persona 3. Even less so with Persona 2. And very less so with Persona 1. But it achieved 7.2 million. This isn't even recent numbers. I wouldn't be surprised it's at 8 million. And the game's on Game Pass. Turn-based. You're telling me Final Fantasy 17 can't achieve 7.2 million? They got to do it right, but even if they don't do it right, I still think they're going to easily get over 5 million. Dragon Quest XI has shipped 6.5 million copies. Now, this is as of May 27th, 2021, which the game's been on Game Pass, and that number is probably easily at 7 million, 7, 8 million. turn-based. I mean, this game is very traditional turn-based. Like there's nothing really out there or crazy with the combat system. The thing about turn-based systems is they get very intricate, involved. There's a lot of systems in place. My God, you play Trails of Cold Steel 4. I mean, you got to add buffs and do all types of crazy shit before your turn, if you want to maximize damage. So it's just a system that can be really involved. I think maybe people think it's just basic, like, oh, I'm just playing with menus. And sure, there's people that turn-based is going to turn off a lot of people, and I think Square Enix is scared of that. But I've always said, just make a great game. You make a great turn-based game, you make a great turn-based Final Fantasy game, you're going to get easily 5 to 10 million. And if it has longevity like Final Fantasy X, which I believe has sold 20 million, I know it's been ported here and there, but every game gets ported. Final Fantasy 17 is turn-based, launches on every system, and after a decade or two, it's going to easily top 20 million. Even so, I think Final Fantasy 17, they do a trailer. The first trailer is turn-based. It's going to get so many people excited that even people who hate turn-based be like, all right, I'll check it out. My favorite YouTuber, Twitch streamer, Kick streamer, is playing this new turn-based game. I hate turn-based, but man, he's so into it. I'm going to be into it and buy it day one. So that's just kind of where I stand. I think the market has spoken. We will put up with a turn-based game like Persona 5, like Dragon Quest 11. Final Fantasy 16, I think, is going to be awesome. I don't mind it. Ultimately, I don't mind what they do. Just give me a Final Fantasy game. What makes a Final Fantasy game? I can't really pin it down. I can't. It's a mixture of a lot of things. Great music, great characters, an interesting world, chocobos. I guess the naming conventions of Phoenix Downs and the magic, Viraga, Blizzaga, all that stuff, Haste, stuff like that. That's, I guess, to me, makes a Final Fantasy game. I don't know. So I'm not too big on what comment I use. Again, 15 probably might have had the worst, and I still enjoyed the living shit out of it. So there you have it. I think Final Fantasy 17 will be turn-based. Those that are complaining about 16 not being turn-based, that's fine, unless you're one of these wackos who are having meltdowns on Twitter without realizing all the other games out there that are Final Fantasy. Y'all are bozos. All right, I'm going to go take a nap. I got to go. I'll talk to you later. Later.